Hi guys, Marcus here, Everything Tenere. Today we're gonna look at servicing your front fork on your Tenere 700. So I will do a quick video because I did one prior and it was almost 30 minutes long, and that's just too long for keeping you guys focused on what to do. So I will not go through how you remove the forks from the bike. That's super simple. You just loosen the top clamp, loosen the cap screws or the cap on the fork legs a little bit, and then you loosen the lower clamp, and of course remove the calipers, the front wheel and everything, and slide the leg out. Then you get this. So this is my left leg, so the one with the ABS sensor on as well. I have already emptied out the oil in this leg, but I will go through all the different steps that you need to do. So doing this, you need to make sure that you have the correct tools, or the tools needed for the job, so you don't stand there with a leg off and you removed everything and then you can't finish the job. So the most important tool that you need to buy is a fork seal driver. So looks like this. We use this to push in the oil seal and the shim in the fork, so it's seated in place. This is a 43mm one that you need for the Tenere 700. Different brands have different sizes on the forks. Like a KTM 790 for example have 48mm. You need a 43. It's also good to have a measuring cup. This is a specific one for oil. You don't need that, but it's good if you have. An air gap tool is also good. This is to measure the amount of air, the air gap in the fork, or to remove oil so you get the correct air gap. So the air gap for a T7 stock forks is 85mm. The amount of oil for each leg is 624 milliliters. So this is something you have to check and measure before you finish your replacement of bushings and shims. Bushings and oil seals, for example. So let's get down to how you disassemble it. So I will change the angle here, the view. So we loosen the cap in the bike first, so it's not super tight, because when you unscrew this, the whole tube can turn and you need to clamp down. So it's good to have a vise with soft grips or soft jaws, or there are specific attachments or things that you can clamp this to a vise, a round thing, which is really good. I don't have that. So 19mm, undo this. It's no worries that the spring will pop. Everything is capped in here, should be. I have though already removed this. So now the leg is free. You can see the spring guide, the cap. You can push down the outer tube of the fork. No oil will come out now if you push this one down. I thought, or I noticed, it was easier to remove the spring and cap and everything and then empty out oil, so I'll do that. And you need a 17th, and if you have a thin one, you can get it in on the nut. It should be tight, but I already messed around with this one, so it's not that tight. It's pretty loose. Now you can remove it by hand and the spring will come up. It will have some tension on it. There you go. So the cap and the cup the spring, and it's really oily, so have a little box or something to put it in. I already emptied out, as I said. Then before you empty out the oil, you have the push rod here for the compression dampening. This one you can remove. It will come out, so if you start emptying out oil, it will fall out, so make sure that you remove it and be careful with it, because it can get damaged really easily. Looks like this. There we go. Now you can just go ahead and empty everything out. Make sure when you have it upside down and empty it out, pull and push the piston, because that will force more oil to come out. When that has been done, you can remove the piston. Remove the spring guide. It's not super necessary to do this, but it's much easier when filling up with oil and adjusting the air gap, because in the manual it says to have this removed. If you have this in, it will cover up more volume, so if you remove the correct air gap with this installed, you will remove too much oil from the fork leg and so on. So remove that one. It's pretty simple. 17mm, twist the bolt nut here, remove it completely. It doesn't make don't worry about the piston going down the tube. Just save the bolt. Take note of the spring guide. It has a longer part down here, shorter one here, so when installed back into the leg on the piston, the longer part should be facing the ground. So now everything is out. You can hear it's gurgling here. I still have some tiny bit of oil in it, but I emptied out as much as I could. When this is done, and if you keeping the OEM stuff, you do not need to remove the piston itself. It can stay in place. Now I will just put it in a vise and show you the rest of the procedure. So I now have it in the vise, and we need to remove the dust cap, this part here. Take your flat screwdriver. Be careful to not damage the chrome part of the shock. Also inspect it for pits and scratches. If you have a leaking fork, if it's not just the fork seal and so on, it might be damage to this one. You need to check that and correct that. There are videos on how you do that. So push the dust cap away. You also have a little springy thingy in here that needs to be removed. Also be careful to not scratch the chrome. There you go. Don't remove it from the shaft. Now everything is gone or out. Now you have the oil seal in here, and then you have the outer shim. So what we do to remove this now is to use some force, and don't be afraid. Keep tension here, and then you pull until it stops, and then you keep on pulling and pound it like I do here. So let's see. There we go, it's out. So here's the golden aluminium tube here. It has a seat here for one of the bushings, and then you have the oil seal and the dust cap. So and also for the spring here that holds in the oil seal. This motion I did now when I'm pulling it out, it's just releasing everything, and that's what you need the fork seal driver to put it back again. So now we're gonna look at how it looks here. and I have oil everywhere. I didn't want to have oil everywhere, so that's how it goes, right? So I will move the camera a bit. So we had the dust cap, we have the oil seal, we have a spacer or a washer. It has two different sides, so it has a flat surface and a little bit rounded surface. The flat surface should be towards the oil seal, so facing down. Then we have the outer bushing, and what you need to inspect here, if you would need to replace it or not, I'm gonna show you guys. So you can see that it has a little black, this is the inner bushing, it has a black surface, that's a Teflon coating. That's what's keeping the, you know, the friction low to the minimum. So this goes against the outer golden tube, and this sits in the golden tube and goes into the chrome liner here, or the chrome tube. So if you have any wear marks on this black surface, so on the outside of this and inside of this one, you need to replace it. Otherwise, just replace the oil seal and the dust cap. To remove this, it's not hard. Just remember the order in which order they sit in. Don't force it out too much. So there we go. Then you can remove the outer bushing, the spacer. Now we come to the oil seal. Then there is a trick. Take a plastic bag, chop chop. This surface here, really sharp edges, and we don't want to damage the seals, especially when we install new ones. So if you put like a parchment paper or a plastic bag here in the groove, and then you can pull this over without damaging it. Same goes for, it's actually easier with parchment paper, and you put some fork oil on it and it will work like a charm. There we go, all out. And important thing here as well, on the oil seal you have two different sides. One side where you can see like a spring thing holding here, and you have text on it. There's some text on it that should be facing downwards, so on like this. The other side is toward the bushings and the spacer, or the spacer there. So keep that in mind, the correct order. So now we will put everything back. So now you have the new oil seals and so on, and then you will install them back. So same order, dust seal first, we don't want to damage it. Put our little plastic around here, put this on, and you pull the whole plastic part here. So there we go, it's on. Do the same thing with our, we have the little retention clip. Yeah, text towards downwards. Now I will replace these anyways with new ones, so I'm not that careful because it's a little bit fiddly. And I don't want this video to be 3 hours long. There we go. Remove this one. Spacer with the flat part towards the oil seal. We can see here the bushing, the black Teflon's coating here. It looks very nice, so no problem with that. Put that on. This one is nice. Push it on, it will clip in place, and that will keep this one from moving. Now we will put everything back together. So we take our little tube, we push it on, we see we get the outer bushing in here and the spacer. We have oiled the chrome shaft. We take our nice fork seal driver, install it around the chrome tube or the chrome one, and then there you could hear a different, that's solid in. So now it's stuck in there in place. This one is a bit fiddly, so you need to use a screwdriver and make sure you do not scratch the fork. Careful, careful. There we go. Now we do the same thing with the oil seal. We put it in there. Put this one back. You also hear a difference. Done deal. We put in the clip again. There we go. And the dust cap. That's it. So let's go to the next step. So now everything is together. We have the piston here without the spring guide. We will measure up 426 milliliters of oil. We'll pour that in. Then we work the piston up and down until we hear that it's just fluid that is going through the valve, so to say, and that we cannot see any bubbles in the oil when we look down. So when you've done that and you think it's all good, you will measure up 85 millimeters, put the air gap tool down, and then suck out any. So you will suck out any excess oil, and if you don't get any oil out, then you have to fill in some more until you get the correct measurement. So it's 85 millimeters from this edge down here. So remember to work the piston so you get all the air out. When you've done that, you put in the spring guide. Tighten down this bolt. I think it was 22 Newton meters, which is pretty hard because this shaft is turning and you don't have anything to hold against when you have the spring guide here, but it should be all the way down. Don't forget to put your rod in for the compression adjustment. Put your spring on and put your cap on. Tighten everything to specs. Install it in the bike again and check the fork so it gives a good response, so it's not, you know, like just a spring. If it feels funky, then remove the top cap. Make sure you work the piston up and down, and it's good if you zero your rebound and compression before you work the piston when you fill up the oil, because it's easier for the oil to flow back and forward. And then put back your standard settings. So that's pretty much it. I hope that you guys have learned something or feel more confident in doing service on your fork. I'm no expert, but it's not that hard. In the service manual, everything is stated there, and you can look up many videos on YouTube on how to replace oil seals and so on. Most of the forks are the same if it's not a closed cartridge system. So stay safe, guys, take care, and don't do anything stupid. See you in my cartridge kit, open cartridge kit install video. Bye bye.